right. Back here, episode number 3 of Jog Your Mind. I'm your host, Coach Andrew Simmons. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about something that's kind of been bugging me a little bit. It's been bugging me for a few seasons. And I promise that it isn't just one of you guys. It's a problem I see in the sport in general. It's a problem I see at the high school sports level. One of the problems when we look at sports, and I realize that I'm a club coach coming to you guys talking about this, is the idea of individualism. And I'm going to take a quote from one of the ancient masters, Lao Tzu. Deal with the small before it becomes large. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot lately is I have athletes that come to me and maybe they're the best kid on their team. Maybe they themselves have no one else on their team that's going to push them. And what happens there is they become a little self-absorbed. They become a little self-important. And they start saying, well, this is about me. When the reality is that this isn't about you. And I'll get into that. But I want to read you guys a little something from a book I've been reading. The mental challenge is to change from a negative to a positive point of view. Instead of being in a high-pressure situation, think of this moment as your occasion to thrive. Welcome the challenge at hand because there really is nothing to lose and so much to gain. You will either win or learn from your performance. Understanding this perspective will help you maintain a be in it to win it mindset rather than playing simply not to lose. When I work on the sidelines with athletes, and many of you guys know me from our camps, maybe you've been a part of Peak for our summer program or you're part of our winter program. Maybe you've attended one of our meets. The number one thing I hope that you guys see through our social media, through this podcast, through everything that I put out to you guys is that this is about the process of learning. Everybody that's in high school, understand me when I say this. There is no winning high school. There is no top here. The top is the next level. And I know that my job as a coach and as a podcast host and as just a person of influence in the lives of young people is to help grow you guys to where you're headed next. The reality is where you're headed next means that you're going to have to do some things for the team, for the greater good, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to come with frustration. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't expect some frustration from your teammates and from your coaches when you're the one that's complaining about having to do a relay before your own main event. That's something that I see as a really big sticking point for me because it's at the intersection of where your goals individually and the goals of the team come in to play. And what I really want you guys to understand here is what you're dealing with is compromise. It's something that requires you to give a little bit to give a little bit. Now, I also understand the frustration when you're put in multiple relays every single time you race, or you're not given a chance to race your goal event throughout the season fresh. I get it. It's frustrating. But follow me here for a second because we're going to talk about that idea of freshness. And I promise this isn't going to be an angry coach rant. This is about changing our perspective at this point in the season. For the majority of Colorado, we've had maybe a track meet. Maybe this season we had some killer snow and that set us back a little bit. And so the reality is it starts this week. This is really when things get really kicked off and we're going to start actually seeing some racing performances, which means you're going to be able to put those skills to use. But you're probably also going to be asked to do a relay and then your event. And that's going to frustrate you guys. So let me just dig in here for a second, because when I see this cycle repeat itself, a couple things happen. As a coach that works with club athletes and works with kids primarily in the off season right now, talking about mental skills and how to help define some of the edges of their training, I deal with the frustration that you guys have with your coaches, your team on a weekly and sometimes daily basis. And what I want you guys to all do for just a second here is just kind of check yourselves, check your privilege a little bit, because one of the things that happens is you get so focused on your individual needs. But where you're headed, if you're looking beyond this in college, the chances that you're going to race a relay are pretty darn high. And I can tell you that the athletes that have left my program, the majority of them, the first time that they saw an NCAA championship, they saw it with a relay. And then they saw individual success. And so the reality is that you have to be able to look at these relays, especially early in the season, as reps. This is an opportunity. You can choose to be upset about it, and that's fine. And I won't stop you from being upset, but it's definitely holding you back. When you look at relays as a brick wall in front of you showing up fresh for your event, you're kind of missing the plot. It's another chance to work on everything that we talk about here at Jog Your Mind, from getting on the start line to handling your nerves. And honestly, relays are a pretty low pressure environment. Yeah, you want to go for your team, but you also have to realize that this is one of the few situations in running where you get to pass the ball, or in this case, a baton, that if things didn't go well, right? Maybe the runner that's coming in before you and you're the anchor leg, they got passed by a couple people. Well, guess what? It's your time to shine. You get to put your skills to use. And that's where you get to be a leader. But it's also 100% up to you. If you want to have an attitude and you want to show up there and you want to be all pissy at the start line and upset about it, the reality is that that's going to carry on into how your relay team performs. But if you bring good energy, they're going to have good energy. And I want to give you guys a perspective. Just think about it, right? We just finished indoor world champs. You go and look at those indoor world champs. It's the best of the best. And I can promise you that every single one of those people that are there are proud to be there. They're proud to represent their team in a relay because they know that they're the best of the best because they got chosen to be there. So isn't it kind of the same thing at the high school level that there are probably a lot of other people on your team that wish they could take one of those 4 spots and that place on that relay team is a privilege? I think so. I think it's a chance that you get to get more reps than probably anybody else because you're going to race the 1600. You might race the 8. You might race the 4x8. Heck, you might be put into a 4x4. But guess what? That's just another start line and a chance to get more reps. And when you take that mindset into this, then it's not so much about me. It's about reps. It's about practice. It's about being able to put your fitness to the test. Does every single time you go to the start line demand that you go after a PR and put yourself into torment to go after something? No. Does it give you an opportunity to work on your skills, pacing yourself, working on your mindset and everything else? Absolutely. I'll get off the topic because the thing I really want to talk about here is the danger of thinking that you have to show up fresh for every single race. I cannot tell you how much I hate this mindset that athletes get into, that they can only race and they can only PR when they're fresh. And that's the mindset that's holding you back more than the mindset that you have to go into a race perfectly fresh. And that if you come in that you can't perform well because you raced the 4x8 or the 4x4 earlier in the day or yesterday, and it's a 2-day meet and you're tired and all this and that. Well, the reality is that 90% of your high school championship races and even your national races are going to come off of another performance. If you're going to go to nationals, you're probably going to try to do at least 1 or 2 events. And when you think about high school state, let me break that down for you here. I'm going to use the 4A girls schedule from last year. Let's just assume that you're super talented. Maybe you can get into 4 events, 3 individual events and a relay. Heck, let's just take 3,200 out of it, but I'm going to share it in the schedule. Let's just say the 16, the 8, and the 4x8. You've got a great mid-distance squad. If you race that 3,200, that'd be 8:45 a.m. on Thursday. The 4x8 is less than 2 hours later on Thursday. The following day, you have the Open 800 at 12:45. So you have, 26 hours of recovery? Now, remember, this is also at the very end of the school year. So you may have to take some finals. You may have some other things in there. You're not just going to be sitting up, putting on the legs, going home and doing your full recovery routine. You're going to recover, but you've probably still got some finals and some other stuff to get done. Now, less than 24 hours later, you've got the 4A girls 1,600 meter run on Saturday. So reality is, 1 p.m. on Saturday. So 8:45 a.m. for the 32 on Thursday, 4x8 at 10:40 on Thursday, 12:45 p.m. Friday, you have the 8, and the 1600 at 1 p.m. on Saturday. So let's say your goal event is to run a really fast mile, but you got the opportunity to run the 800, and your team needs you for the 4x8. So that means you're going to open your week and weekend of state champs doing the 4x8. And you're going to give it 100% because that's what you do for your team at the state championship. Now, 26 hours later, you need to be fresh for an 800. And then another 24 hours and 15 minutes later, you need to be fresh for a 1600. So can we cut the garbage that you have to show up fresh to perform? I'd love for you guys to ask any prior state champ if they were 100% fresh when they had an outstanding performance. The answer is no. And that's what needs to go into your training. That's what needs to show up, is changing that mindset and really looking at this opportunity that when you go and you race in a relay before your goal event, yeah, it might be a good time for you to work on running on tired legs. Doing those 200s at the end of a workout and things like that is helping you learn how to perform when it matters most, which is the state champs. That's where we're focused, and that's what we're looking on. So with that said, I'm going to close you guys with one last thing, right? I love this statement because it's something that I've told many of my prior state champs right before they race. Pressure is a privilege, not a problem. Athletes will experience intense pressure in their performance as long as they perceive athletic contests as an impending disaster rather than a great opportunity. Furthermore, these athletes also have a tendency to interpret normal bodily sensations, such as an increased heart rate prior to performing, as catastrophic. Importantly, this type of bad pressure can be clobbered by developing the right mindset. So, as much as this was me on a pedestal talking about my frustration about showing up fresh and how people can get frustrated with relays, remember, it's a privilege. That's it. I'll see you guys next week.